order. And do you want to do roll call, Diane?
Yes. So we have Miller absent today, Chair Miller. So we'll do Vice Chair Cook.
Yes.
Member Zagorczyk?
Here.
Member Hanson?
Here.
And Member Tripp?
Yes, here.
Okay, thank you. If you will all join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Does anybody have any changes to the published agenda? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to adopt it?
For my first action, so moved.
Thank you, thank you. I should have paused and introduced you as our new member. Thank you, Jerry.
Fine. I'm happy to make the motion. It's a safe one.
Yes, it is. And a second? Michael will second that.
I'll second.
I second.
Okay. There were not any minutes included with this one. I think those are a little behind, which is fine. So we can move on to, is there any comment from the public of items not on the agenda tonight?
Kim, you need to go back and actually have the vote on the adoption of the agenda. You had the motion and the second.
Oh, and then we need to vote. Okay, sorry.
Yep,
it's been so long, I missed it.
Yep, and it needs, unfortunately, since you're on a Zoom meeting,
yes,
by state law, to be a roll call vote.
Yes, so go ahead, Diane, sorry.
Vice Chair Cook?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Zagorczyk?
Yes.
Member Tripp?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Now we can move on to public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. Do you have anything? No?
We do not.
Okay, so we can close that and move on to our presentation. Let me remind everybody that we get a presentation from staff, and then the board can ask questions of staff. Then we get, if the applicant would like to speak, and the board can ask questions of the applicant. Then we have public comment, if there is any, and then we close that and discuss it among the board members. So whoever's doing the presentation tonight, Diane, is that you? You can go ahead and begin.
All right, thank you, Member Cook. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. The item before you today is the design review for the landscape plan at 2161 Starkey Avenue. The landscape plan is being brought before you as part of a condition of approval for the residential approval that occurred in March of 2021. We do have the Evans here, which are the owners of the property, as well as Brianna with SSA, the landscape architecture firm that provided the plans that were in the review packet. Additionally, we have Rosalba Ramirez here with Public Works as well. So you all are probably familiar with this lot. This was the existing condition. This building here on the left has since been demolished, and the image on the right indicates some dead trees as well as some other dead brush that was removed from the property in preparation for the development. So moving on to the proposed plan, it proposes a planting of approximately 634 square feet, 201 square feet of permeable artificial turf, 743 square feet of permeable surfaces, which is the crushed rock and the wood decking, and as well as 1,150 square feet of hardscape, most of which is located in the backyard and not visible from the public right-of-way. So as stated in the staff report, the portions of the project that staff recommends the ZDRB focus on tonight are: one, the proposed landscaping from the public right-of-way, so that would change the view from the public right-of-way, as well as two, the shade structure proposed for the back half of the lot. Although this isn't seen from the front elevation, there may be impacts to the adjacent properties, specifically the property along the west side of the parcel that we're looking at tonight. The third one is the approval of more than 2 auxiliary structures on one parcel, which you guys are used to seeing, and we'll just need to get approval to have 3 structures, but we'll get into all of that. So here we have the front elevation, and the image on the left shows the front elevation of the home and the location of the fulfilling the requirement of the planting of 1 tree in the front yard. So this happens to be a fruitless olive. And it gives you a better understanding of the image on the right, which depicts the tree in the center of a cluster of vegetation surrounded by little bunny fountain grass, blue foxtail agave, atlas fescue, blue fescue, and a breeze mat brush. So I put all those images down here for you so you can get an idea of the vegetation that would be along the front. And another thing you'll notice from this front elevation are the 2 proposed gates, one on either side of the residence. And the gate on the left would be a 5-foot, 5-inch tall gate, a sliding gate, and it would provide privacy to the backyard, and it sort of delineates the front yard from the backyard. It's a steel framing with wooden slats, which was also described in the staff report. The sliding gate on the eastern boundary is a solid steel fence and is in black. So both gates would butt up to what is proposed for the fencing, which is the 6 feet with the 2-foot lattice. And it was a condition added in the conditions of approval that they would just obviously need the adjoining property owner's permission. And the schematic indicates that the height of the gates would not exceed the height of the 6-foot fence with the 2-foot lattice. I would like to point out, just in case something did occur where the two extra feet of lattice was not approved, that the way that the plans are portraying the gate, it would still remain below the 6-foot fence line. So if the board felt compelled to add a condition that in no case shall the gates be taller than the fence that shows the property boundary or something of that sort, if you felt that necessary, I think that would be reasonable. And then moving on to the rear yard, this is actually a view from the western, this would be the western elevation. And there are a couple of items I want to discuss in relation to the rear yard. And one is the height of this structure here. So as I mentioned, typically in just a landscape plan, you wouldn't necessarily be putting too much thought into this because of the minimal impact it would have from visibility from the public right away. However, due to its height, we felt it was necessary to highlight that. And the second is the number of auxiliary structures. And the third, which was not discussed in the staff report, was just the color of the shade structure. You can see in item 2.4, it states that the aluminum frame attached to the facade is it's an aluminum color to match the window and door trim. So I thought we could use this opportunity to speak with the applicants and confirm what color they're meaning by aluminum, since we do have a code that specifies explicitly that we do not allow bare aluminum or aluminum colored for door trim or window trim. So this proposed structure here, the shade structure, is 10 feet 4 inches. the height is not an issue. However, because it's within the height, which is 12 feet to plate height. However, because the grade has been built up to accommodate the basement, it begins to have a higher, the perspective from an adjoining neighbor would be that the shade structure would be much taller. So let's see, if from either the western boundary or the northern boundary, it would actually seem as though there was a 12-foot 5-inch structure, and that would be with the 6 foot of lattice and the 6-foot wood fence and the 2 feet of lattice, because it would exceed that by 4 feet 5 inches. So that's something that I wanted the board to consider. As far as the maximum number of auxiliary structures, they have the garage the carport from the original approval of the residence that was approved back in March of 2021. And then we have the built-in, it's defined as the built-in kitchen area type on the plans, and the spa. So that brings us to 3 auxiliary structures. So that's just something that the board will also need to opine on. And lastly would be the aluminum that I mentioned before, and whether this would be something that we would want to specify in the conditions of approval. And something that I checked as well, because the plans had indicated that it's the color of the shade structure is to match the windows in the door framing. I went back to the original approval of the residence, and it was portrayed as a black steel. That's actually how it was referred to. So I just wanted to get clarification after this as to what color it will actually be. So I just wrote down a list so we could touch on everything. And of course, that's after questions and other concerns that the board may have, but I just wanted to make sure that we capture everything in our discussion here after that I had brought up in the staff report. So I can answer any questions or expand on anything that anyone would like.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Do any of the board members have any questions that would be questions of staff? You want to start, Michael?
Sure. So just point of clarification, and I'm sorry if I missed it. The shade structure that is now sort of over 12 feet because of the grade, is that being included as one of the 3 auxiliary structures?
No, it's not. And I had thought about this quite a bit, but because it's attached to the home, it's considered an architectural element. Auxiliary structures are defined in our code as detached. So I had to come to that conclusion with this.
And when it comes to the house, the footprint, and we'll call it massing and FAR, I recall that if you want to do so like a patio or some sort of extended footprint on the house, there's a maximum that you can have in that regard. So I'm trying to figure out, I guess, in what category to put this shade structure. It's not a separate unit, so it's an extension of the house. But if it's an extension of the house, does it not then need to conform to the massing and FAR guidelines?
I understand your concern, and I have thought about these things as well. But so what's explicitly stated is that this is an architectural element by definition, that it's not an auxiliary an auxiliary structure, and architectural elements are not counted towards FAR. And they can also have a plate, they can be basically up to 1 story, 12 foot to plate height. So they also can be taller. I did touch on it briefly in the staff report because I had thought of that as well, but by definition, there's no incompliance that I'm seeing by definition. But I know that we have had these discussions about lot coverage in our last meeting that we met, and that was a conversation driven by Kirsty. And so I do think that that's something that once the department gets through this transitional time, that we can start looking at lot coverage and thinking about the impacts and how we can, if there are standards that we need to create based on that. Is that a good enough answer?
Yes, thank you for answering my question. I was, it's mainly because architectural element's a very broad term. There's a lot that could qualify as that. Just if I just read it at face value.
Yes, I agree. It's just that it did not qualify as the auxiliary because it's attached, and that was the main difference.
And then I'm looking at the overview of the plan. So it's still conforming to setbacks. So it's 5 feet and 20.
Yeah, all the setbacks, height limits and setbacks have all been met. And I mean, obviously it will be a condition of approval that, and I think it's in the condition of approval as it is now in its draft form, that all setback and building height requirements will be met regardless of what's discussed in this meeting today, as well as all California building code requirements.
Thank you. And sorry if I missed it, but is there a square footage of because I'm understanding that it's essentially, it's a frame with a cover of sorts, right?
Yeah, like a canvas cover like this here.
Pergola type, yeah. And do we know the overall?
Yes, I did at one point, and my apologies, I don't know it offhand, but I could probably figure it out, unless I want to say it was about less than 300.
Yeah, but it's a canvas cover, so it's a soft.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Gray mesh netting. Okay, thanks for clarifying. I can't think of any other questions at this time, so I'll happily pass it on.
Okay.
Okay, let me ask one kind of follow-up question to Michael's before I move on to somebody else and not go through my whole list. The structure in the back is considered an architectural element, but weren't you listing the carport as an auxiliary structure?
Yes,
and I don't understand that because that's part of the house, right?
That they're just considered an auxiliary structure in the code.
Okay. Okay. So I will hold on to the rest of my questions and move on to Hillary. Did you have any questions of staff?
No, I did not.
Okay. Jerry, did you want to go ahead with any questions?
Just a quick question about the height of the fence and the gate that is above what would be standard. That is the one that would ask for neighboring residents' permission or sign off?
So not the actual gates, and sorry if I'm not understanding your question completely.
No, just I saw in the conditions of approval, there was actually, you needed to have the neighbors,
correct. Yeah, so that's for the fencing. That's not really, you can't see it from this front elevation. That's just the fencing that's lining the property boundary.
Okay, that's fine. So it's not the one that we were just talking about that's going to be, because of the basement, that it's going to look like it's 12 feet, but that's not the one. It's another, okay, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify which one which one was tied to the COA.
Okay, so I actually will, it's the one that's in the conditions is the property boundary fencing.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that your only question, Jerry?
Yes, for now, yes.
For now, sure. Okay, my question's Diane. Did you happen to hear from any of the neighbors regarding this?
No, we didn't. We had no public comments.
Okay. You mentioned that the grade is raised by a little, around 2 feet plus because of the basement. I don't remember that being part of our original review. Is that been added, or was it just something that isn't relevant?
I don't no, what I was told is that we had worked previously with another representative of SSA to try to get some of those answers, and then Brianna came in, and my understanding is that those heights are not in stone. So they're not sure what grade, and it has to do with accommodating the egress, I believe, for the basement. Actually, I think that the applicants might be able to speak further to that if that's appropriate for them to speak at this time.
We can save that question for later if you want,
Okay.
just to make it simpler. It just,
Yeah, because one thing I did notice is that, and I don't know, because again, this would come down to structural calculations and plans, which we don't have at the design stage, or we don't look at the design stage. And it's why I included that the California Building Code must be met regardless of the outcome of what occurs in this meeting, is because if you look right here to the right of the shade structure, to me, it looks like it could be a little bit lower. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be that high. It could attach at a little bit lower spot.
right. Yeah, that was going to be another question that I was going to have of the applicant.
So I think that that's a fair, I'm glad you brought that up, and I think that it's worth a discussion to talk about if it would need to be at that height.
Well, that's one reason it comes up, but it also comes up because if they're going up 2 feet from existing grade, then they're adding 2 feet to the height of the house. Are they still meeting, our height requirements? I'm seeing this happen more around town where people build up their lot so they have a grander stairs up to it and then measure the house from that point, but making it taller and more imposing than other.
I do know what you are talking about, and I've seen that as well. Unfortunately, I didn't review the previous approval in depth because it had just been through with design review for the residents, and I was just focusing on the landscape. But
okay, I still kind of wonder. That's something we should put on our to-do list.
Okay, I agree.
For planning, is to somehow keep an eye on that.
Yeah, because the definition, I think they usually say that it should be measured from finished grade, which is different, right? So that means basically that if they need to build up, that would be the finished grade. It wouldn't be the grade that was existing.
Right, but we need to put some sort of limit on finished grade.
Okay.
Okay. One other question is, it said they were in compliance. Well, their design will be in compliance when completed with all the bioretention guidelines.
Yes.
And they talked about planters. Are they, well, maybe this is a question for the applicant, because it's the plantings are only on the west and north side for the bioretention. But what about the east side, which technically our town goes downhill, from west to east?
I think Rosalba would speak to this.
Okay, well, she's staff. We can go there. Rosalba, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
And this plan, what you're seeing right now, doesn't have the legend, but that area that's marked in green and that kind of crisscross hatching, that's the bioretention area.
Okay.
So all that square footage covered the required square footage to be bioretention.
And they're not actually putting in planters, but they're doing some sort of subsurface drainage. Is that
yes? And as part of the requirement, they had to provide in their plans what that section looked like, and it meets all the bioretention requirements.
Okay, but there's not any on the east side, which is technically like possibly lower than the west side, because the town goes downhill.
We can, but usually with new developments too, or new construction, they're able to adjust that to make sure everything flows. And on their plans, everything was flowing correctly to the bioretention areas.
Okay. Okay, that might be, now looking at this, that might be non-permeable on the east side fence.
And we do keep,
Okay.
we do follow up on that during construction as well.
Okay, good. I think those are all my questions for now for staff. Does anybody, any of the board members have another question that's come up in the meantime? Raise your hand. No? Okay, then we can move on. If the applicant would like to make some comments, we will open that up for you.
Good evening, board. I appreciate your guys' time and service sitting on the board. And I also would like to thank the staff, Diane and Christie's spent a lot of time on this project. And it's been a tremendous amount of time with our planner working with your planners to make sure we can conform with the rules and regulations of the city. So I really want to send a special thanks out to them. I believe we've designed an excellent plan that would be very respectful of the neighbors and in design and you know, really be a compliment to the property for privacy for all parties. The neighbors to the north have beautiful trees. The neighbors to the east have a carport, and the neighbors to the west, it's very small, you know, to me, it's a very small angle over to even see anything. In addressing Diane's question, yeah, that frame of that pergola will be it'll be the aesthetics of a black steel. It may be made of aluminum when we went through this, but it will be a black steel look, flat matte steel look.
Okay, great.
So I wanted to address that. It's not changing. Not looking forward to doesn't need any standards right now. Those standards at all. In regards,
your sound is cutting out. We're not hearing you.
May need to repeat.
Now? Is it any better now?
It is. You may need to repeat the last 30 seconds, though. Yes.
Oh, there'll be there's no aluminum colored metal on the house, so it'll be a black steel looking metal. And then Kimberly, on your specific question, I'd like to defer to Brianna about the height. I know we're all in compliance with what was approved, and I think she could give you more detail on that height of the yard. I would hope you could, Brianna, because I know you're more on the specifications.
I mean, our sections are based off of the approved architecture plans that are, that they have the building permit for in terms of finished floor and adjacent elevations. The structure itself, what's driving the height is their big sliders that you can see, those big windows. We have to be, because we're attaching to the house, we have to be above those. So that the section that you're looking at, Diane, you mentioned that little space below, it's sort of like on that other part of the house. There's sort of, it comes out at you that you're not really seeing in section view. So it really does need to be that height unless they looked at all new windows.
So just to clarify, are you saying the sliders, like a slider in the home or a slider from the
as a part of the home
shade structure?
No, as a part of the home.
Okay.
Yeah.
The approved sliders, the sliders that were previously approved in the house. Again, to attach it, we couldn't attach it if it sat below the window. So it's right on the top of the window there, the lowest possible point we can attach it. Because if you attached it any lower, it would be unable to attach. It'd be below the window, below the slider.
And the shade cloth, they intend to be retractable, so it won't be, covered all the time. There will be times where it's open. We'd really tried to keep it as minimal as possible. We still do need to, like Diane said, do structural calcs and all that to make sure that it all works, but the intent is to have it be as clean line as sort of the smallest members that we'll be able to use and be structurally sound and meet code.
Okay. Now we can
And well, the view from the
Go
west
ahead.
side too, we have that planting along the west side. We do intend to have like the taller screen shrubs there too, to help with the view from the west. But this house over here too does, you know, the last window sort of ends at the carport, and then there's no windows, and then they have this sort of makeshift covered area, and then a structure back here too, like a garage or a shed of some sort. And I realize that this home is old, and you know, something may be done with it one day, and all that needs to be considered. But as it stands, I do think that the view towards the structure will be minimal.
Okay. The owners, did you guys have any more comments?
Nope, unless you had any questions for us.
Okay.
Just yeah.
Brianna, did you the conversation? Can you leave that plan up? I think that's helpful.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead and share your screen. I think that's helpful. Back to like the picture we were looking at, the side elevation. There, that. Brianna, were you saying that the overall height of the shade structure could not be any lower because of how high the windows are?
Yeah, as it's down, yeah.
Okay.
We'd have to, you know, for the windows building permit, the architect's working on now, you know, we'd have to look at.
And it takes forever to get windows, yeah. Okay, so the windows are taller than the midline of the house, because the midline of the house there.
Yeah, I mean, you can see
lower.
Okay. Yeah, they're 10 feet.
Huh. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. My other, well.
And they run that whole, you know, this side, this west side, and then along the back side too. So that corner opens up.
I thought all the plantings in the front looked very beautiful, and I think it will be, I mean,
to be pretty
more than a lovely improvement. What was there, I think it will be very nice. I like the sliding gate structure in front of the carport with the steel frame and the wood slats. Can that be done on the gate on the east side so that it's not a solid steel wall? The solid steel
from
gate,
my standpoint,
would it be matching?
Can be owners.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that would make it not so industrial. I like the wood slats. If those could match, I think that would make sense. Would be my only comment. Okay. Hillary, did you have any questions of the applicants? Did we lose Hillary?
She's here. You're on mute if you're talking, Hillary.
I'm sorry. No, I did not. But I
Okay.
had to.
Okay. Jerry, did you have any questions of staff?
No, I don't. Thank you for asking. I'm
okay. Good. And Michael?
Just a few minor ones. The privacy wall, what is that constructed of?
It's just the 2.3 on the backside. It's just going to be a brick wall, and there's going to be like a sort of little window through the center of it too.
And the brick, I assume, matches the brick on the house.
Yes.
And so that basically just runs along the back and creates separation for the covered area, and then I guess what's left of the yard behind it.
Correct. Just sort of a little, you know, anchor to the spa.
And it looks like the height of that.
It's only like 5 feet, I think.
Okay, but then with the 1'11", I guess it ends up being just shy of 7 feet from the back because of the step down from the.
I think we're down on this one. We're already
I don't
7
think
feet.
Yeah.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
And staff, from your standpoint, that's not an issue. I know fences can go up to 6, and this has a 9-foot setback, and you didn't flag the 7-foot height of the privacy wall.
Yeah, so that's the privacy wall. So that's why I was saying we could have a condition to where if in any instances I guess I failed to specify the privacy wall in that too, but basically that certain things won't be, if this 2 foot of lattice is not approved, which I don't see that happening, but if it is not approved, then we could require that to be lower, so that it stays within, stays under the fencing.
I think that makes sense, given, I mean, I don't understand the purpose of the privacy wall, given, you know, the tall fence and the, all the shrubbery that's going to be planted there. It seems probably a bit heavy and a bit overdone. I don't know why you would want to limit the size of an already small backyard even more by building an additional wall.
I think the word privacy too, I mean, you're pretty private in there already.
Yes.
It is just sort of a design feature that anchors that spa space and sort of creates this little room for the spa.
So when we discuss,
and we're trying to tie in the brick, sort of, I think it'll look nice, a nice feature to have. But.
Can you show us the plan view again, Diane, so that we can see where that is on the plan?
Looks like it's on the western side.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not, I'm not sure why it's blurry. It's the internet or something. There we go. It's going slowly. There we go.
It didn't change on this end.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at I have 2 maps up. That's why.
Okay, there we are. There we are.
I'm sorry.
So the privacy wall is across the whole back?
No, it's just, I guess, is it not?
Adjacent to the spa.
Yeah.
It sort of separates that like walking space on the west side.
Oh, so it's just
and anchors the patio.
Okay.
There.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, just the one end wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So
it doesn't go all the way around. Okay.
No.
That's what confused me though, because
yeah.
I actually see on one of the plans the privacy wall in the back of the house as well.
I thought so.
It was confusing. They went through a lot of different revisions, and it was so that could have been the case.
They may be labeled wrong if we're calling them both privacy wall. That could just
the,
be an error on our plans, because that wall is
it's
not
on the back elevation.
Yeah, that wall's not brick. That wall's concrete, and it receives the overhead structure, and it sort of separates that back patio space 1.3, the permeable gravel, from the upper patio. And then they also have that little fire table that comes out 2.6.
We can't read any of the numbers online here.
Yeah, sorry. Not on this. On the plans you can.
Yeah.
However, I think that what we need to be looking at is whether how we want to incorporate a condition to have the privacy wall remain below the height of the allowed fence.
Yes.
So we'll
just perfectly stated.
Okay. So when we discuss that, we can.
Okay. And I see that Jerry has her hand up.
Yeah, just to follow up on this, where this conversation is going, I just wanted to check in with the applicants and designers in that the privacy wall, that's a terminology that, clearly is just part of the vernacular. But also, is that visible from anybody but the resident?
No.
No. So that's what we were just talking about, was that that if we do have that 6-foot fence with the 2-foot lattice, it would not be visible. However, if for some reason the adjacent property owner on the north boundary or the western boundary did not agree to having a 2-foot lattice extension on the fence, then it would be visible. I don't see that happening, but to be on the safe side, we can make a condition that in no case shall privacy walls, any other architectural feature or side gate exceed the height limit of the approved fencing.
That makes sense to me. Does that make sense to you, Jerry? Does that make sense to you, Jerry?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't over engineering something that no one else is ever going to see, and it's actually a design element that the applicants want to have in their own backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that thought. That's sort of what I was sort of getting at too, that we should focus on the concern, which is if it were to exceed the height of the fence.
Yeah, and that answers my question. I just want to make sure, is there some sort of structural reason? But if it's design and, you know, visual from the inside of the home and then outside enjoying it, I mean, as long as it doesn't, you know, exceed, you know, someone's other view shed that doesn't live there. But, you know, at what point are we not designing this and just approving it?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And so my last question for the applicant, just triple confirming, because Diane, you mentioned that the overall height of the structure was 12. You mentioned 12 foot 5 inches, but it looks like it's 12.3, right? Because it's 10.4 from the elevated patio area, and in order to provide clearance for the doors, but then with the extra 1 foot and 11 inches above grade, that puts it 3 inches above the structural height limit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And that is because the height of the doors are preventing it from going any lower.
Correct.
Is that okay? Okay. Nothing else.
Okay. So if none of the board members have any questions, we can finish up the question part and move on to the summary that Diane just put on the screen for us. The height of the side gates, whether there should be a condition to ensure that in no case shall a side gate exceed the height of the fencing. To me, that makes sense.
And we could add the privacy walls or any other architectural element proposed, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. That's why you're there, to keep us on track. The height of the structure as it may impact the adjacent neighbors. And I think, unless anybody has another comment, I think we kind of talked through that and decided it would be fine. The color of the structure was determined that it would be dark architectural bronze to match the house. Anybody have any thoughts on the part whether the number of auxiliary structures, since if will be exceeding 2, are we okay with that in this instance? Any comments?
My understanding was that there are 2 auxiliary structures and 1 architectural element, right? So that if we agree to the definition of it being an architectural element, then strictly speaking, we're not exceeding 2, is my understanding of how it's positioned.
So the not exceeding 2 is per parcel, and so I was including the carport from the residential approval, that's all. So you have the carport, the spa, and the kitchenette type area under the shade structure.
So it is technically will be 3 if we approve it.
Right, cumulatively there's 3, so that's what I wanted to bring.
But visually, to me, the carport is an architectural element too, and I don't know if we're allowed to say that that's more of an architectural element than an auxiliary structure, or we could just go ahead and approve 3 without creating any sort of unusual precedence.
I would just, I would just approve the 3 just to cover our bases so that we didn't have to come back if for some reason there was a change in the definitions.
Okay.
Well, I guess my only hesitation there is that if the guideline specifies that only 2 can be there, if we approve 3, we're creating a precedent that 3 is okay. So I would propose that we keep it to 2, but we clarify that what's being defined as an auxiliary structure is not correct, and that
Acting
we would,
like an architectural element. Okay, yeah.
That's right.
That's your.
I would concur with that approach as well.
Okay, great.
That's a good way to do it, Michael. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with that. So, unless anybody else has any more comments on the project, does somebody want to make a motion?
Oh, I should leave that.
That's okay. Michael?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the plan as proposed, provided that the height of the privacy wall did not exceed the height of the gate, that we define the carport as an architectural element in this instance, and that all other criteria that were specified, including the color of the aluminum and the overall height of the structure, remain unchanged.
I think the privacy wall should not be taller than the fence height.
Correct.
Correct, not the gate. Yeah.
I meant the fence. I said
Yes,
gate. I meant
I know.
fence.
I know. I was just clarifying that.
Hey.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, that was Jerry. And Diane, you want to do a vote?
Sure. Vice Chair Cook?
Yes.
Member Tripp?
Yes.
Member Zagorczyk?
Yes.
And Member Hanson?
Yes.
Excellent. Then the plans are approved with the conditions of approval that were on them, along with the minor variations. And we'll look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Hey,
Steve, did you want to? I think Steve may have wanted to hop on and say a few things.
Well, I'm just going to under administrative items.
Yes.
Thank you, and to the Evans, and good luck. And we certainly appreciate your improvement to Starkey Avenue.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We're very excited. We're very excited about it. Again, I would like to thank Diane and Kirsty and staff. They've done a wonderful job, very thorough, and thank you all. We look forward to contributing to the area.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Bye.
Night.
Well, on behalf of the town and the ZDRB, we'd like to welcome Jerry to her first ZDRB meeting. Outgoing Commissioner Jordan, we aren't sure if he's able to attend, but he will be recognized as our all outgoing boards and commissioners at a council meeting with a certificate and a lovely etched bottle. So I just wanted to share all those elements with you. I will also share, and I hope this does not disappoint you, but we will be moving forward and resuming in-person meetings going forward. So the town council meeting and all various other functions and related meetings, we're resuming back to, well, what would be considered more normal. So that was the big thing I wanted to share with you. So for those of you that don't enjoy the Brady Bunch approach to our meetings, we will be able to return to council chambers, and I think all of us are looking forward to that.
I would agree.
Are we keeping the 5:30 time slot, or is it 6? I noticed there was some discrepancy.
That was a mistake, and it is 5:30 is your approved time.
Great.
Oh, yes. And there was one other minor mistake that Steve cleverly told me to let you all know, that I accidentally promoted you to town council and mayor on the agenda. So that was an error on my part.
Do we need to make a motion or?
A motion to deny that?
That would probably be more appropriate, Jerry. On that.
And thank you, Kim. That was nice and smooth.
Sure.
Very
I
nice.
had a little practice and a lot of help. Okay, well then I will move to adjourn the meeting till November. You will send us all the details
Sounds good.
and we'll be there in person.
That's even better.
I agree.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.